Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have a special guest with us today, Tunde Daniel Onakoya. He is founder at Chess in Slums Africa. Really cool organism because for those that follow you, you know that I like chess. I am not good at it. I am an oscillating 800, 900, 1,000 at my best. I think the highest I've got is like 1,100 rating on chess.com. Tunde on his end, he's a national champion and he's rated 2,400, something like that. So basically, it's fair to say that I don't even think he's 2.4 times better than me. It must be like 5 to 10 to 15 times better. And I would estimate my chances of winning against him at 0.002%. By the way, today we're going to cover his company, his nonprofit Chess in Slums Africa. But next time we're gonna schedule a game so that you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm not kidding. Like chess is more than guts. You know, I play speed chess, and I practice my gut decisions. I actually stopped, so I'd be quite rusty, which would be even sadder. But chess is very very cerebral. It's about memorizing plays, and yeah, Tunde definitely has more of these mental maps in his brain than mine. So let's see how it goes next time. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcast. That's my podcasting agency. If you want to meet cool folks like Tunde, talk business with them, talk helping people, talk chess, that is the way to do it. You can grow your network as well, have masterminds like I do. And yeah, let's hope that I keep touch with Tunde here. I really think that we can make something cool here. And finally, podcasts, yeah, create leads and generate clients. They can even be used for that, podfire.com. Tunde, can you say a little hello, tell us a bit more about yourself and Chess in Slum Africa?
Hi, Charles. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And I honestly don't think you're a bad player. Every master was once a beginner, right? And if you really put, dedicated effort to improving your rating, right? I've come to learn that people don't necessarily get better by playing chess, obsessively, right? You really don't learn much by just playing, repetitively, right? You actually learn more by studying and understanding, theory and, basic principles. I think that, it stays with you. Knowledge that you gain from studying, stays with you. So yes, I'm excited for our fun match and we'll see how it goes. Again, thank you
Fun
for
for
having.
you.
I mean, there are people that will beat me hands down, and 100 games probably won't be able to win one. So chess really is in levels. I mean, there's Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, that is, eons ahead of everyone else. So, again, my name is Tunde Onakoya. I'm a national master of chess in Nigeria. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm 28 years old, and I'm the founder and convener of Chess in Slums Africa. So, Chess in Slums Africa is a non-profit organization that uses the game of chess as a tool, right, to help children living in impoverished communities get access to education, mentorship, and technology. It was founded some 5 years ago, and like the general idea behind even using chess as a tool to stage an intervention in slum communities, really does stem from my own personal story because I grew up in a slum as well, in a place in Lagos, Nigeria called Ikorodu. And I was out of school for a number of years, but chess, really did change my life. It gave me an opportunity to find myself. And now I like to think about the work that I do with chess and slums as doing the same thing for other children like me so they can also get, a chance at education, right? So chess is the means to those ends, not the end in itself, because we're not training them to become masters. I mean, some of them will go on to be exceptionally talented, but the goal really is to give them a beginning education and help them be the best they can be.
I love chess. I started in primary school. I was my school champion, and yeah, pretty much stopped after that. But chess taught me a bunch of things. You know, it taught me to be competitive. It taught me to think ahead, so planning. It helped me memorize move. It helped me stayed poised under a lot of stress. And I've even restarted playing chess not so long ago, like I told you, with chess.com. And it was my favorite toilet sport nowadays. After a stressful day, I was just chilling on the toilet playing chess. And I played speed chess, and I thought it would improve my CO decisions, and it did. But I kind of gave up on all games nowadays because and I didn't like the gamification and the serotonin it brought to my brain. I felt it was like an addiction. It was like so fun, but I still think it has humongous mental benefits, especially for young kids. I would guess in the slums, the life is hard. A chess game is somewhat affordable, right? You can, and they can entertain themselves, learn some moves, become great students of the game, and hopefully that consistency, that habit, that discipline of constantly practicing can waterfall into other aspects of their lives and potentially even bring them out of the slum. So what is the typical scenario at play here, and what skills can chess bring to these kids that they can um, transfer into their own lives and improve their lives?
All right, thank you. So, chess is such an interesting game. I mean, it's a board game, and you know, I remember, a friend of mine used to say that, oh, watching people play chess is like watching paint dry on the wall. It isn't of much interest to people that do not play the game or do not understand the rules of the game. And a lot of people have this wrong perception that, oh, it's too complex, it's too complicated, it's too hard to learn, it's too cerebral. But the truth is anyone can learn to play chess, right? And it's very simple to learn. Yes, it is complex, and you can get complex, especially when you're getting to points where you need to master a lot of patterns, start delving into like the much deeper intricacies of the game, right? But just like any learning endeavor, any endeavor in life, right, it does require a lot of hard work and commitment, right? So chess, you know, is a highly cerebral game, right? But the beauty of it isn't just in a lot of those cognitive benefits that it has, right? I mean, there's empirical research like gross dendrites, on both sides of the brain. It helps you really understand, strategy in a very practical way, right? It helps you, improve memory, concentration, focus. So a lot of the discipline that is learned, in that process, it stays with one. And for me personally, one of the most important things chess has really taught me, right, is the, understanding of delayed gratification, right? The power of focused thought. And I can say for a fact that, I've learned more from chess than I ever did, from college or from school even. It has sort of become my philosophy of, my life philosophy even. So in the context of what we do with chess and slums, and for the children that live in this disadvantaged communities, there's a different essence to it, right? And this is why, it is important to me. And I like to say that it is just so much more than a game, right? It is an identity. And for the children that live in poverty and extreme poverty in the slums, that have no education, that have no food, that have become victims of their parents' poverty, right? One thing that is a silent consequence of that poverty, of that situation, is they will never get to know what they can become, right? They will never get to live out their potential, right? Most of us have had the privilege of education, of good parents, of having basic amenities and infrastructure. But for millions of children in poverty, they will never get that. So the idea really was teaching them chess as a way to give them that sense of agency, that identity, right? That they can also be thinkers, that they can be intellectually inclined, right? That they can gain ability to do something. And that's the beauty of chess. When you work hard at it, you see results like in real time, right? So being able to just like change the entire premise rather than, oh, children in poverty from Africa that are suffering. Like this is a child, despite all of this, now has the capacity to play chess and be good at it, right? Some of the kids that we've trained have become champions, and a lot of that has, even reflected in their academics, in their confidence, right? Because now they have their own identity. They have a skill, right? that gives them that sense of belonging, that they belong somewhere, right? And this is, again, this is the silent consequence of poverty. It goes beyond just not having money or being hungry. It's that there's no sense of self, there's no agency, right? You're defined by your circumstance only, and that's the only life you get to live. So being able to teach the kids chess has helped us to achieve that beyond even the cognitive benefit, because the cognitive benefit for a child while their thoughts are still forming is incredible, right? They begin to learn how to think critically, they begin to learn how to think creatively, right? And that is education. Education is the capacity for thought. So teaching them chess is a way to give them education, but more importantly, it's a way to help them build the confidence that they need, to face challenges, right? And all of this really does accumulate in helping them find a community and find a place in the world. And that is a global one, because chess, is a global sport that is played and respected by people from all walks of life. So there are no disparities. It doesn't matter whether you're old or young. What matters is your ability. And, teaching chess to children in those places, it reflects that, and it gives them the confidence that they need to triumph in all aspects of their lives.
Right. Tell me about a day in the life and Slums Edition. So, what does a day in the life look like? Because obviously, I've never lived there. You've been there as a kid. So, what would that look like?
Yeah. So the reality there in the ghetto, in the slums, is uh, the very lack of basic amenities, clean water, sometimes um, um, out of school children, right? The millions, for example, in Nigeria, there are over 20 million children that are out of school who can afford to be in school, right? And, it's a really sad situation, right? Because, Africa has the highest, illiteracy rate. So, and the world is constantly evolving. So there's that, high rate of children out of school that are getting involved in gangs, and all these other vices, drugs, criminal activities, right? Because there's basically no way for them to discern. They don't have an education, right? And there's very little guidance and mentorship, right? So it's a lot of that, a lot of vices, um, like a lot of hunger, right? There's no food. Sometimes children are terribly malnourished. So even their brains don't go through the usual like cognitive developments that it should, the nutrition they should get from food. They miss out on all of those benefits, right? Because they were born into this disadvantaged situation in this community where there's a lack of resources, there's a lack of infrastructure, a lack of basic amenities. And one of the slums we work in, for example, is Makoko. It's the largest floating slum in the world. So in this place, people live on wooden stilts on black water. So the water looks really black, almost like sewage, it's smelly. They defecate in there, they bathe in there, and they still drink water from there, right? So it's a lot of health, hazards even, right? But they don't know any better. So most of the residents are fishermen. It's a fishing village where they paddle on canoes, and they live right on the lagoon there, across the lagoon on water, right? So it's a very, very sad, sad situation, right? Because resources are very limited, and a lot of people are missing out on that. So it's extreme poverty in a way that is almost unimaginable, right? So this is like the situation, this is the circumstance, right? And this is why initiatives like this are important, right? So we don't just let the single story of the slums define the people that live there, right? The slum is just a place. It doesn't define the people that live there. The people that live there are the real treasure. It's the real capital, right? And the surrounding circumstances can change if you can empower those people and give them the right access.
Wow. If I would drink that water, I would probably die. That's a
Yeah.
reality.
I
Yeah.
felt first few weeks.
You mentioned victim of your parents' poverty. I found that really intriguing. Can you tell me more about that?
Right. So think about the birth lottery, the ovarian lottery, right? You're born randomly into, you don't get to decide where you're born. You're either born white or black, or you're born in Europe, you're born in Africa, whatever, right? You don't get to choose that. It just happens, and you find yourself in this place. So, the sad thing is, a lot of people will not get to win that ovarian lottery. So they get born into poverty, into extreme poverty, right? And I think this really speaks to um, our um, our ability to be more empathetic as a society, right? Because for most of us, we've been shielded by that privilege that we were born into maybe a wealthy family, or a family that can at least give you the very basic things, right? There are millions of other people that were born into a different scenario, circumstance altogether, because they didn't win that lottery of birth, right? So it is important that, at the intersection of our own privilege and another person's oppression, right? Another person's disadvantage. That is where we find real opportunities to pay it forward for people like that, right? So I think the onus is on society, the onus is on the privileged ones, right, to become conduits, right, and be able to give, especially the children that have lost, the lottery of birth, to be able to give them some equitable, opportunities, right? We should be able to create an equitable future that includes all of them too, right? Because, like I said, when a child, loses that lottery, that ovarian lottery, right? They're born into a situation that they cannot change. It will be so hard to break out of that cycle. Imagine you're born to two illiterate parents in a village, somewhere deep, 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 where there's no internet, where there are no schools, there's no clean water. You have to walk several miles to the farm and work hard in the sun. And that is the only reality you'd ever know, because we're product of our immediate environment, right? So how do you even expect that child to have dreams beyond those confines? It is impossible. You can't say, oh, believe in your dreams, because the dreams are confined to the reality that they know in that place. So they can only aspire to maybe be a farmer, a local farmer, or whatever it is that they've seen. So the only way to really expand, their imagination is to show them a world that is much bigger than that, right? To help them see that, oh, this is the potential you have, and it can be bigger than this place, right? And you must understand that sometimes, the place where you're born is not where you belong, right? You belong where you think you belong. So I think all of these things, I feel deeply, is our responsibility as a society, right, to bridge those gaps. And I know this well because I was also born into a situation like that. But chess gave me a lifeline. The first time I ever left my community was because we went for a tournament. That was also the first time I ever saw a computer. That was the first time I saw a lot of things. I saw high-rise buildings, and that helped me aspire to be more. Right. So despite losing the lottery of birth and not being born with a silver spoon, I could have greater aspirations because, I had seen that, oh, there was success that was better than this, and I could aspire to those levels of success even. Right. So this is my entire understanding, right, of, children being born into a situation that they can't change, and they become victims of that situation. Right. So when they become victims of that situation, which is their parents' poverty, the only script they get to act out is that script that life has given them, through birth. And, it takes a lot to come out of that, without help.
Right. Let's book a round two. We'll play chess that time because I have way more questions for you, like delay gratifications, like how can we bring internet to Africa, and how and what is the typical scenario to a kid in the slum? Does he turn to crime and so forth? So I have a bunch of um, questions, additional questions for you. Until then, where can we find out more about you, Tunde?
Oh, there's a lot. Just Google Tunde Onakoya or Chess and Slums. There's a lot of content. But for Chess and Slums as an organization, we have a website, chessandslumsafrica.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram as well. Me personally, I spend a lot of time sharing my thoughts on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter at Tunde Onakoya or Tunde underscore OD. Instagram, Tunde Onakoya. There are a lot of videos, especially about our impact stories, the children that, we've helped find a place in the world again, just using chess, so you can read a lot of those stories. And we really hope it does give people something new to believe in.
I am Charles Cormier, host of founderwisdompodcast.com. That was Tunde Daniel.